Hey, Wellness Crew. So, I just wanted to kind of share a few things, well, several things, that have really helped me on my path to wellness personally, and not go just based off of, things that or anecdotes from my clients, but go based off of what actually has helped me and has worked for me. Now, I didn't include everything, obviously, because there's some things that I've talked about like nonstop. So I wanted this to be a list of things that maybe just weren't really like, wouldn't first come to mind, right? But that were essential in me developing and becoming the person that I am today and the person that I'm going to be in the future. So, and all this is totally random. It was a free flow stream of consciousness. So, being in your body to get fully creative. So, what does that mean? Really being in your body. I've talked a little bit about feminine energy and masculine energy. And with feminine energy, that's really when you're in your body. With masculine energy, that's more when you're in your head and, working on a solution to a problem. Being in your body, you're more free flow. You're more kind of open and inviting, and you are receptive to, ideas and receptive to things that can inspire you. So when you're in your body, when you truly feel like you are in your body and not overthinking and not in your head, it's such a wonderful experience, and it helps immensely with creativity because of the things that I listed. Like, it is insane. So, really trying to step out of being in your head all the time, because that happens a lot with a lot of people. I know that that was one of my biggest afflictions for years, for years and years. I mean, it was the worst. Just being stuck in my own head, being on all these different loops and not understanding what exactly was happening. Well, once I did, and once I understood that, like, hey, you can change, there are avenues to change, but you have to be open to ideas that are new to you, and you have to be open to things that maybe you haven't been before. And so when I really wanted to pursue like total wellness, and I'm not talking about just looking the part and working out and eating right and all those things. I mean, complete life wellness, like being well in every area of your life. That's what I wanted for me, and that's what I wanted for my clients, and that's what I wanted to build as a community. But I didn't really fully get there because I wasn't being in my body enough. I wasn't allowing myself to get those creative insights, to get those ideas. But once I learned, things became so much easier for me. Things became like easy to understand. Like, it wouldn't take like a lot of time at all for me to understand something. I could see it and conceptualize it so much easier because I was in such a creative point being in my body instead of in my head. Okay, so this is what I do personally, and I know that it goes against probably what most wellness people will tell you, what most, career coaches will tell you, and all that. But rather than setting, or for me at least, rather than having a big goal, I maintain components of that goal. So, what does this goal look like ultimately? And I just maintain components of it because I never know if I'm going to want to change it a little bit. I never know exactly how certain things are going to come to be. But because of my belief and because of the fact that I just know that I can do it, um, I go ahead and I don't really have like one set big goal. What I have are the components around it. What I have are the ways that I want it to feel, to look aesthetically. The things that appeal to me, my senses, right? Those are the things that I use for me to be more invigorated to pursue a goal, or, you know, the big goal or the little goals or whatever they may be, right? I will always say, yes, it is very smart to go ahead and write down your goals, and at least have it written out, have it there, right? So you have your list, you know what you want to do. But at the same time, when you're rehearsing living the goal, right? You've accomplished it, you're living it. What about all the other accessory components to that? What about like what it really feels like, or what it's going to be like, or what you'll be spending your time doing now? Will it change? What's going to change? What's going to stay the same, right? Those are the variables that you can't really control. You can't control exactly how you're going to get there because you don't know your exact path. And that's okay. It's okay to not know. But it's definitely good to, if you don't have a big goal, at least have everything around it. At least have, okay, this is what it's going to feel like. This is how I'm going to be. This is how, I mean, just whatever it is, have it be around the big goal. And on the inside, you do know what your big goal is. But it's really good to try to visualize, have those components, do mental rehearsal. So imagining what it's like living in that particular scenario. It can be a year from now, 5 years from now, however, long it's going to take for you to accomplish your goal. But for me personally, I just feel like maintaining components is so much easier. I change my mind sometimes. When I make decisions, I make them quickly, and I'm usually grateful for them. However, I do tend to change my mind, and I won't go back on anything, but I will be like, well, maybe I should have made a different choice, but that's okay. And then I just move on. So, doing what feels good for you. So, this was such a struggle for me. And when someone told this to me, I was like, what do you mean just do what feels good for you? Like, what does that even mean? When you're a mom and you're a partner and you're, trying to, I guess, back at that time, define yourself again, right? Because you kind of got lost into motherhood or got lost into, all the household stuff and micromanaging stuff. And it's really, really interesting to just sit, stop, and think, okay, what could I do right now that would just feel good for me? So, oftentimes, especially recently, I feel like I've announced this several times. I feel like a nerd. I did not get a Peloton, wish, but I did get a stationary bike, and I've been using it in the mornings, and I have just felt like so much better after incorporating that into my routine that I already do, anyways. Um, I don't know. There's just something about bikes that I like. So anyways, that feels good for me, right? Going on my stationary bike, even though it's in the garage and I have to go in the morning because if I don't, then it's going to be hot. I'm going to get super sweaty and everything's going to take just so much longer. So, finding what feels good for you. Another thing that I've talked about before is having hobbies, right? So, one of my hobbies is diamond art, and I actually posted a video about it on Triller. But what it is like perfect for someone who is OCD and perfect for someone who like doesn't mind the whole idea of painting by numbers type of situation. You're not painting, it's literal like little gems, but it's called diamond art. And if you're, kind of like me, where you have that type A, but you also have a little bit of type B that in there with you, but mainly type A, and then you find yourself like, oh, you just want to do something that's a little bit artistic or creative, or to you at least, right? Diamond art. Like on Amazon, they have so many different types of, I guess canvases, I'll say. I'll call it a canvas. But I mean, it is a wide variety. And I've been working on one for quite some time now. I'm getting really like edgy to finish it. But doing stuff like that feels good to me, right? Sometimes eating a certain type of meal, that makes me feel good. So, you know, having a, is it Tai Chi? chai tea. Having chai tea at night feels good to me. So there's like certain little things that it's like, okay, like instead of focusing on what it is I need to do for everybody else or focusing on what I need to do for, you know, whatever else, right? Give some time to yourself, do what feels good, and you'll just end up being and feeling happier because of the fact that you invested that time into yourself alone. Okay, showing up as you are and want to be. So, what I like to now think of, I had this like huge thing last night. So, I like to think of it now as instead of there being this huge separation between your now self and your future self, right? Think of it almost as the same person. It's just you're becoming that person, right? So, when you think about how you want to present yourself to the world, you can do that in any way you want. Absolutely. If you have certain goals, though, like you might want to change or alter the way that you currently appear or the way that you currently speak or little things like that, not because you want to change yourself and be inauthentic, but simply because you want to enhance yourself and you want to make yourself more palatable for a new job or more palatable for a new relationship, whatever it may be. This helped me and continues to help me because there's some days where I'm like, I actually don't have to work today. So I want to be in pajamas all day, but instead I go ahead and, get dressed up, even if I'm not going anywhere sometimes. It makes me feel better. It just makes me feel more confident and it makes me feel more like my authentic self, who is in the future. So thinking of it like that, thinking of showing up as you are right now, but also as who you're going to be, who you're like the person that you're on the path to becoming. Thinking of it that way, but getting rid of that path and understanding you are that person. You're that person already. And that might make it a little bit easier for you to then bring that person to the now, right? And you'll be able to look like that person and speak like that person and behave like that person because there's a lot of changes and things that go into, what happens when you do hit your big goals. A lot of things change. So you want to be prepared for that. You want to know how you want to be and doing mental rehearsal and showing up like the person you want to be. That's always a really great thing to do, and especially when it's being done habitually. Okay, so something that was very difficult for me was to not accept disrespect. I have just, kind of been raised, grown up around boys. So I'm 35. I was born in 89. Um, so, back then things were just so much different than things are now. So I would tolerate a lot of stuff that women today probably would not tolerate at all. I'll put it that way. Sometimes not even tolerate it, sometimes just have to be there because I didn't have a choice. But what I learned from that and what I kept on seeing is every time that I was getting disrespected, I felt like some of my energy was like dying. Like I felt like some part of me, some, like I don't know, like pure maybe part of me was dying. And I couldn't really put that into words until I was in my 20s. And I was like, I noticed it again. And I was like, wow, like this, sometimes it's a little bit even hostile. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Because I don't have that type of feeling towards you in any capacity. But I don't know. So, basically, I just started to stand up for myself and I wasn't having to be, sometimes I have been, but I wasn't trying to be like assertive or dominant or anything like that. I would just choose my words very carefully. especially like when things are done, like people say something under their breath, you can really like look at them and look at them with such like interest and be like, oh, I missed what you just said. What did you say? And act dumb, basically, right? And then just to see if the person will repeat it, just to see if the person will say it to your face, things like that, right? So instead of letting a whole bunch of stuff go all the time, which I'm not saying that you shouldn't, it's probably best. But there's times too when you need to be able to stand up for yourself, have those boundaries, be able to say, no, I'm not here for this and this doesn't serve me. No, this isn't good for me. I'm not going to be around this. I'm not going to be around people that are disrespecting me. So, cleaning out the closet of those, acquaintances or, even some friends and stuff that are disrespectful towards you. Maybe try to have a chat about it first and be like, look, this is what I'm seeing. This is a pattern that I'm experiencing from you. Is there a reason for this? Do you even intentionally, like, are you doing this intentionally? Those kinds of questions. You can have a chat and see if something will change. And I hope that for you. But at the same time, it's like if someone's constantly disrespecting you, even if they don't know that they are, again, that's you just burning away some of that pure energy that doesn't need to be burned away in any capacity. So I feel as though today I'm confident with not accepting disrespect in any form or manner. I can say that, but it's also because I go about it in a way that is very unassuming and not reactive. And that's the biggest part of it, is losing that reactionary, initial like feeling that you want to have, and instead of that, replacing it with forgiveness, love, and understanding. Truly, I mean, I know it sounds hokey, but that's honestly the truth, for me at least. This is what I do. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know everything that's going on. I don't know what's going on in their mind. I don't know what's going on in their body. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, in the sense that maybe they honestly did not know that that could be considered disrespectful. But again, is it something I'm going to expose myself to when I know someone has that pattern? No. Just no. Okay, so this was a huge one for me. Altering my body language. So being more open, being more receptive, smiling more. I used to hate it. So when I was like, oh God, like all through my like older teens through my 20s, and well, even my 30s, people would be like, you are so beautiful, why don't you smile? And I'm just like, what? Like, I'm not paying attention, I'm not aware that I'm not smiling. And even then, I think it's really effing creepy for someone to be like all the time, like it's a little much. um but I had to definitely work on that, so that way people wouldn't think of me as, not that it mattered to me, but it would matter for certain types of situations, or it would matter for stuff I want to do in the future. Like, you want to present yourself in the best way possible. So I also had that habit of always having my arms crossed, and I've done that ever since I was a teenager, probably younger actually. And that stems from something that happened to me in my childhood that was super traumatic. Don't want to get into it. But I was always in this, for me, what it was like being protected, like being in a protective posture for me. But what I didn't know is that that was being interpreted as being defensive. And I was like, oh, my bad. So I knew immediately that something that would help me a lot in what I'm trying to do is to be able to communicate more effectively, and also just be more warm and open, or seemingly, right? Even though I am. But from that, outset, if you saw me and I'm not smiling and I have my hands, or my arms across my chest, and I just don't look like a happy person, then I would understand why someone would not feel a connection or wanting to come up and talk to me. That makes a lot of sense. So, for me, altering my body language, altering like the way that I respond to certain things is, instead of, having a certain type of look on my face, it's a smile or it's something, right? Um, and it just took some time, and it just took, like, honestly, it's really helpful when you create content because you're kind of able to watch yourself the entire time, depending on what type of camera that you use, and you're able to see what your go-to mannerisms are. So it's actually really telling and teaching. But that for me was a big thing. Altering my body language, it made me just feel different. Like I felt totally different. And people were much more responsive towards me. Not that that was what I was going for, but I just didn't want to appear to be like super closed off because that's not my personality at all. Okay. Having people who can authentically support you. So for me, this was incredibly important. And the reason that I put authentically in there was because there are some goals and some dreams that are realistic and aren't realistic. Now, who's for me to say what's realistic and what's not realistic, right? People do insane things all the time. But for me personally, knowing myself and my personality, I sometimes need to be kept in the like what's realistic and what's a little bit unrealistic. And that's not saying that I'm overly listening to them when it comes to like ideas for what I do or anything like that, but other stuff, of course. So, people that can support you, but if they see something or if they're starting to notice a trend of something that maybe is negative or maybe is showing just something, right? Just having people that can support you, but that are also paying attention to you. And if they don't like something that you're doing, that you can take that criticism, but knowing that that's not like it's not going to affect you in a negative way or anything. It's just that's that person's opinion. When you have a supportive group around you, then you have a number of people that you can go to, and you're able to, just be like, hey, is this like in my range or is this like out of my range? Like that's kind of how I like to put it. And very rarely do I get told that it's out of my range, but in the past, I would get told that quite a bit. And again, because when you don't have, at the very least, an idea of a plan or know what you are going for wanting to do, then what is going to be the motivation to keep you from getting there when you don't even have that fully realized? You need certain components to be fully realized before you yourself can become fully realized as well. So, as much as I said that about having components to my big goal, I still know what my big goal is. Okay, another game changer was being grateful every day, finding a reason. So, even though I did drop off a little bit on doing my gratitude journal every single day, I would, and I still do, make sure that I, thank God, or I just say that I'm grateful for something, that I, speak it out loud and give it energy, because I definitely want to express gratitude as much as I possibly can, and be as grateful as much as I possibly can. It's a very high vibrational energy emotion. And it's also a way for you to really change your perception on your current situation. You can start to see the benefits. You can start to see how, ways that you can, if you need to, like get out of it, and solutions. So, being grateful for things, even for the most minute things, being able to see, being able to hear, being able to speak, um, you know, being grateful for your family, being grateful for what you are, doing, or what you do for work, or being grateful for, even if it's just something that you have, just coming from a place and an intention of gratefulness has helped me so much. And it has helped every single one of my clients because it allows them to see things from a different perspective. Everything's not doom and gloom anymore. Everything's like, oh, but I have this that I'm grateful for. So even if something does go wrong, I still have something to be grateful for. And more than likely, you're going to find there's a whole bunch of stuff to be grateful for. Okay, so volunteering. Volunteering was a like the best choice that I made. I love the ladies that I volunteer with. I have a great time. I volunteer usually 2 days a week. Today's actually one of my days, but I haven't been feeling the best. So I didn't go in today. But I just love volunteering. I love giving my time. Other people love giving their, money to things. Like that's their form of volunteering, and that's acceptable too, of course. And there's some people that do both. There's some people that volunteer and they give their money as well. Even if it's just a little bit, they still do. So you can be in any one of those, but I highly suggest finding something outside of yourself and outside of like the norm, right? And going and doing some volunteering and getting to see the type of other people that also volunteer is really interesting because everyone is similar in a way, but also incredibly different. And they have incredibly unique stories and they come from totally different backgrounds, But it is just so interesting to really get to volunteer my time to a worthy cause, as well as get to know people that I would never have gotten to know had I not started volunteering. And it feels good. So I really love it. Okay, so personally, I am accepting of trying. So, like the do, don't try, and all that stuff. Yeah, there's certain situations where I'm okay with someone just trying because there's some days that I am just trying, you know, um, or I'm trying or whatever, right? It all depends on really like what it is, but it's at least being open to it and at least being like, yo, they tried. Like at least they tried. Same thing. It helps with gratitude, helps with gratefulness. If a person really doesn't try, don't give them credit for trying. Like that's on you, right? But if a person is actually trying, maybe they're not accomplishing what they need to accomplish yet. But if they're legitimately trying, like for me, I'm like, okay, I can accept that. That's okay. I get it. I know the struggle. But it's just from such a long time ago, so it's just it's funny in a sense, because oftentimes what do we do, right? We're projecting ourselves onto other people. Well, at the same time, those people are projecting themselves onto us. So really, sometimes we're not seeing each other clearly at all because we're really just seeing ourselves. It's interesting. Okay. Learning or brushing up on a topic that interests me. So this is something that I used to do a lot and then kind of got away from it. Obviously, got busy with like motherhood and working and just, a whole bunch of stuff. But spending time on things that actually interest me. So the stuff that interests me is the boring stuff, some of the self-development stuff. But I also kind of wanted to know a little bit more about, well, one in particular. So there's this thing called human design, and I've never, like, I've heard of it. I know it's kind of woo woo. Like, I've heard about it, but I really want to learn more about it and more about what all of that is about. Only because when some of these people are speaking, it is so similar to what a lot of wellness coaches are saying, to what a lot of life coaches are saying, to what a lot of all the coaches are saying, really. But they're a little bit more streamlined and they have their own like lingo, right? So it's just that part kind of put me a little bit at like alert. But I still want to find out more about it. So I was like, okay, let me just buy a book about it. And so we'll see how that goes. But stuff obviously, keeping up with stuff having to do with like yoga, reading stuff about like a clean gut, and exercising and the genome and still reading Dr. Dispenza, like, so I kind of flip around, but I always try to, increase my knowledge, learn something new, because I know how important it is for my clients, how important it is for me, and how important it is that I share anything that can help me or help others around me. I don't just make it about myself. I really try to tune into what the person needs. But I like being a resource of, hey, have you tried this idea? Yes, it's out of the box, but have you tried it? And also just, being well versed in wellness in general. And you can't really be well versed if you're not doing some form of continuing education or, reading up on stuff or reading books or trying to learn about new things that are coming out that people are finding trendy or popular. And it's just like, okay, let's just see what this is about. Okay, but I definitely do that every single day. Like, maybe with the exception of weekends, but every day I'm reading, learning something new. Okay, so another big thing too was something that made me feel different, better, healthier. And I didn't even know that I really had like gastrointestinal issues or anything, but I guess I did. So I take vitamins. I take a multivitamin, and I take a few other vitamins. And I have just found that this particular mix works best for me and has made me feel a lot better. As most everybody knows, I do suffer with lupus. So anything that I can find that is like anti-inflammatory, that is not causing me to be in pain from my joints hurting, and um, just stuff that I look up and read. And I'm not big on using, you know, the internet too much, I'll be honest. Um, I like to read. Like, it's hard for me to read off of a computer screen. It's hard for me to read off of a tablet and all that. Off my phone sometimes too. So, I like to like read and to really like invest in the information, and if I want to be able to highlight or underline or, do whatever it is. Um, that's with learning, but with taking vitamins and supplements, that's also why I did the reading because I was like, okay, I want to know what to take, what this is going to mean. And I also then wanted to do further research to see, like, okay, but is this actually true? And so I was able to fact check everything. I fact checked it all before I was going to consume it. But the regimen that I'm on, I really do like it. I think it's working for me and it's making me feel better. So I wish that I had started taking vitamins and supplements when I was younger. And like, I did take a multivitamin, but I really wish that I would have taken like specific vitamins, when I was younger, because I feel like health wise, things would have been different for me. Um, and I probably would have felt a lot better and not had to go through all the stuff that I had to go through, not knowing that there are vitamins out there that literally can aid you in your mood, and you don't even know about it. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, there's vitamins for a lot of stuff. That wasn't the intention going into it. I was actually at this particular vitamin, I was looking um at its properties for another ailment, and I was like, wait, what? I was like, that's interesting. Okay. Which then makes me think of Arrested Development when there's uh selling that nutrition supplement or whatever it is, and Timocell or something. They're all having the side effects of the vitamins anyways, or their thing. But okay, so taking responsibility. So this has been super important and helpful when it comes to the harder things, right? So things like dealing with trauma and dealing with abuse and dealing with things you've experienced in your past. And you might have PTSD, or you might at least just sometimes get those flashbacks. Um, for me, what really helped was taking responsibility for my part in any situation, right? So that doesn't mean it's victim blaming. What it just means is that I'm taking ownership in the fact that, hey, maybe I shouldn't have allowed myself to be in that particular situation with those particular people at this particular time. That's me taking responsibility. That's not saying that what happened afterwards was okay or acceptable in any way, because no. But it's taking responsibility for the things that you can. And I feel like that really helps when it comes to difficult topics, difficult subjects. When you can take responsibility for the situation that you're in, when you can be honest with yourself and let yourself know, like, okay, I got myself here, like, even if you do have other things that are happening literally to you, I know that feeling too. And it's just like, no, I choose to take responsibility. I choose to accept this and to do my best to work at it, work on it, defeat it, whatever it may be, Um, but taking responsibility for things that aren't yours is something you definitely do want to avoid, right? Because now what you're doing is you're kind of building up all this like big thing of, guilt and shame. And so it's, for me, this helped me, but it's a controversial thing because a lot of people don't agree with how I feel about that particular or those particular, things. But I'm just saying, multiple times in my life, I have had really awful things happen to me. And I've had to be able to pick myself up and to move on and carry on gracefully. And sometimes I wasn't able to. But once I learned that taking responsibility for my part in that situation was going to be the only way that I could heal for me personally, that's why I talk about it and that's why I share it. Because there may be other people that are like me that kind of understand that idea of taking responsibility for your part only and then kind of being able to rectify that with whatever happened and then being able to move on and move forward. Okay, and then the last one, which I learned and I was like, wow, that's crazy. So, loving myself enough to say goodbye to someone. So, this doesn't even necessarily have to mean that like you're saying goodbye to a toxic person, like we hear all the time. It's not like that. It's about knowing and loving yourself enough, knowing that despite that person's absence, that in all honesty, you can take care of yourself and you don't need that role to be filled. It's feeling utterly and completely confident in the fact that you have this, that it's okay to say goodbye. Like sometimes people just have to end relationships, they have to end their friendships, they have to end partnerships, they have to end whatever it may be. It's just what's going to be best for either one or both parties, and you have to be able to love yourself to be okay with saying goodbye to someone, especially if it's someone that's been important in your life and has really, done a lot in your life and means a lot to you. But that's when I really was like, wow, like I really have done a lot of inner work on loving myself and not being that person that, you know, would hold on and keep on holding on, and keep on holding on. It's like, for what? Let their energy go and free up a whole bunch of yours. And you will still be able to, like, feel fulfilled. You'll still be able to, feel good. You don't need a person to fill a role for you, right? It's nice to have that, but it's never a need, it's always a want. And I'm just going to be straight up with you. It's always a want, it's never a need. But we have chemicals in our body that are like, oh yeah, I need, no, you don't. You don't need that person. It's okay. And when you love yourself enough, it's honestly, not to sound harsh, but it's really not going to bother you that much. So, anyways, so yeah, this was just stuff like I've kind of, that has helped me definitely throughout my inner work journey. but also just things that I was like, huh, like this is probably not something that has been thought about or talked about 10 billion times already. So, any little thing that I can think of to share, right, to help other people, to change their situation, to improve on themselves, or just to feel better, just to know, like, hey, like there's someone out there that has been through, a lot of difficult experiences and was able to come out on the other side and be totally okay and happy and, have or working toward for sure, but having, a life that is better than what it used to be, and having consistency, and having happiness. Having happiness is the biggest one. And, the sense of relief that you have, with being like, wait, I get to be happy. Like, what's going on? It's incredible. So, I will definitely see y'all on the next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and or follow. Be well, stay wild.